So, we're talking about Black Lives Matter and the killing of police. What happened was I was trying to figure it out, man, because I've been talking about that this is an American problem, and it wasn't until I read that it wrote that, and then read it back, and then today there was an issue that happened as I was going through different social media platforms, and I found something that was really interesting, and it dawned on me what the issue is. The issue is that they're trying to make this into a black and white thing when it is an American thing. There's the whole what aboutism is that everyone's saying. Um, it's valid because it's a issue that's happening with all the communities, right? It's happening in the Latino community. It's happening within the Asian community. It's happening within the white community. It's happening within the black community. So it's happening in all these different communities, and so blacks aren't special when it comes to this um, type of incidences. This is a policing issue. It is not, and that is what it is the goal of Black Lives and other organizations and other people like Black Lives Matter, Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton, Alexandria Ocasio Cortez. I really haven't heard. Oh yeah, Bernie Sanders, aka BS. He is full of it, right? Um, and different politicians. Oh, Nancy Pelosi just recently. How are you gonna dress up in an African dashiki thing, the little thing, and a hat? Who are you pandering to? If anything, that is just above and beyond. It's offensive to whoever in Africa. Africa, number one, is a continent, and it's made up of a bunch of different countries. You have Nigeria, Congo. Um, South Africa, you have I had all these Ethiopia, Somalia, Madagascar, Seychelles, Cape Verde, and all these other different places that are all over Africa, right? So there are a bunch of different countries. So what countries was she representing? Where is that origin from? Because not all African countries, not all countries that are in Africa do that. All right. So what was the significance of doing that? It's just the pandering above all else. Why? Because they want the black vote. Because if you are an independent thinker, you're able to do things on your own, and you don't need the government, then you realize that you don't need the Democrats, because they're all about trying to help you overcome super overt racists and the systemic racist and unconscious racism that's going on that is supposedly keeping black people down. If you really look into it, you find out that it's not these things, it's other programs that are aimed to um, disarm, depopulate, defund, destroy, and discourage, dishearten. All these things, right? So it's ridiculous. So is it that police are racist, or is it that there are some police that are not adequately trained? And if you look at the evidence, you see that it's just that they are not always adequately trained. How do I know this? Because they're constantly there's a lot of police departments that are asking for more funding so that they can be more adequately trained. When you have a broken car and it won't start, there are people out here that want to defund the police. That is the equivalent of let's change the tire. But the tires don't have anything to do with starting the car. Yeah, but it's a systemic problem, so we need to change out the tires. What? That's how stupid defund the police is. My car won't start, change the tire. So that's how ridiculous that is. All right? So what there are some other people are doing is they're changing out the battery. Oh, it must be the battery. So we'll put in another battery. We'll put in a bigger battery. There are other things that are within that system, like fuses and relays and the ignition coil, the distributor cap, spark plugs, and a whole. There's wiring that can go bad. There's a whole host of things within the system that could be wrong. And as you're going through this system and you're finding out what's wrong is not what's not wrong, more times than not, the things that are wrong are far less numerous than the things that are right. One thing can screw a lot of things up when you're talking about starting a car. It could be that the fuse wasn't completely plugged in, right? So you have a fuse or a relay that's not completely plugged in, and you try to turn it over and nothing happens. So you go and you check the entire system, and the entire system is working, the entire system is functioning, the entire system is good, but you have one part, one small little part, like a fuse, that's either bad or not plugged in all the way. Okay? So the issue is that one single fuse. You don't get rid of the whole entire car. You don't rebuild the whole starting system. You don't go buy new fuses and distributor caps and ignition coils, and ignition key, wiring harnesses, and all that other stuff. You don't go buy all of that stuff, right? You buy the one thing. You go and you troubleshoot it. You find out what's actually wrong, right? And what's actually wrong right now with the police departments is funding, and the funding helps facilitate things like training. And we're talking about all facets of training, for mental health management, for stress relief. There are things that I've received training for, and I was just like, oh, I exhibit some of those symptoms. Well, number one, I was able to acknowledge it. Some people and acknowledge it and address it and then fix it. Some people don't even. Some people is deeper than that, and they actually have to go get help. If you don't know what's going on, then you can't fix it. But once it's been identified, then you can fix it. And that's the whole thing about troubleshooting and training. Once you train, then you gain more knowledge, then you gain a better understanding of what's going on with you, your community, or your mission. To label all cops racist and all cops are bastards is, or F the police, is ridiculous. To label that all cops are just into flexing their power because they peaked at high school and they have nothing else to live to validate them as human beings is just ignorance. There are a large majority of veterans that leave the military and want to continue to serve their country, and so they join the police force so they can make a meaningful difference within their community. They're no longer fighting in foreign wars, no longer being involved in things overseas. They want to be able to directly affect and make change and defend their community, and so they join the police force. It's a natural progression, right? There's some people that are naturally pulled towards protecting and serving. And that is exactly what this is all about, protecting and serving. This perversion and twist that the progressive left has twisted it into being some kind of like male-dominated, beat your chest monkey primate crap is exactly that. Another way to make sure that the country is divided and you can't speak because you're a racist or you support this male patriarch, white, cis, conservative, racist agenda. It's above and beyond ridiculous. So, the whataboutism that people are saying is a valid whataboutism. There are whataboutisms that aren't valid, and there's some that are. And this is one. Because what it does is it addresses the whole problem, right? It's the issue is training. Give them the mental health management training. Give them the stress management training. It's huge. I've received that training, and it helped me massively. Some tools I already had, but it gave me a whole handful of other tools that I didn't have that I can employ. Not only that I can share with others to help them. Right? So the other thing that they need more personnel. All right? How are you going to do training and cover the shifts? It's near impossible. Plus, a lot of agents, a lot of departments, they're overbooked. They're overmanned. They have more hours than they do personnel. In Cleveland, they started getting rid of cops and they started putting up cameras. That's a great reactive strategy, but we need to prevent. We're all about preventing crimes from happening. And the way that you do that is a show of force, right? And a show of force is just being there. That's not actually being forceful. It's just being there, right? It's like if you're there and your kid wants to eat the candy bar and you said, don't eat that candy bar. And since you're there, they're not going to do it. But the moment you walk out of the room, they're going to be super tempted, and a lot of them, they're going to do it. And then be like, ah. But it's about self-control, right? Black Lives Matters and their allies. Their allies are Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, which are admitted, they say, democratic socialists. But if you listen to the words that they're saying, and then you go and you look at the Communist Manifesto, which I have read, there are 10 steps. And most of their steps, all of their steps really, points towards Marxism. So essentially, they are Marxists. Okay? So, and if you listen to Bernie Sanders talk about how Sweden is a socialist country, he's a liar. They're not, and they haven't been for almost 30 years. Okay, they were socialists for a little while. It didn't pan out too well for them, and then they went capitalists. So they're capitalists, and they also have a huge welfare state. Black Lives Matter only goal is to separate America, to make it seem like there is this black epidemic of cops running down cops running down black people and shooting them if they're unarmed. Does this happen? Yes. Why does it happen? Because they're racist. Wrong. All right. Because there are things that there's not enough training. One of the things that I received when I was doing what I'm doing is received training on how to report things, right? So when it came to sexual harassment or hostile working environment, we were taught on different levels and how to intervene. Okay, those cops that were trying to say, "Hey, should we flip him over on his stomach?" They didn't have the correct training on how to intervene. They know how to intervene with the community because they have that level of authority. But there needs to be. It doesn't matter what rank you are held to the same standard, and anybody at any rank can call you out. And that's what we need to do also within the police. Get it within the mind frame that safety is above all things, all lives matter, and let's make sure that we do the right thing all the time. Black Lives Matter. I've been saying it before. They are a corporation. They are incorporated. Black Lives Matter Foundation Incorporated. What have they been doing with their money? This recently came out, and I've been saying it from the get-go. It said it on their website. I don't know why it took so long to catch traction, because this garbage has been going on since 2003, since they were formed. The biggest noise that they made, yes, first one was Trayvon Martin. The second one was during 2016 when there was an incident that happened. They made a whole bunch of ruckus, and then they've been kind of like here and there trying to stay relevant. And then again, here they pop up, and there's this huge different divide. And they are unified. Boy, are they unified! They're telling white people to shut up. Stop talking about you. Yes, white people are killed, but black people are killed more. Number one, that's not true. Per capita, yes. That is true. But at the same time, it's still a problem in all communities, not just the black community. So it's not just a black problem. And that is where the divide happens. It's not just a black problem. It is an American problem. It's an American issue that's happening across the board. And we need to look at the whole system and figure it out. All right? And we need to look at the whole system from the starter to where the spark plug spark and hit the gas, right? It's a multifaceted issue with multiple layers and multiple parts, and we need to look at the whole thing to figure it out in order to fix it. And we need to get away from it's the tires and look at the actual system, okay? Racism is like, of a list of 1 to 100 things that's on there, it's not even on the list. Okay? There are 100 other things that are way more important that need to be fixed. One is mindset, all right? The other one are politicians trying to get voters in their pockets by spreading lies and misinformation. There is so much information out there that is garbage that the Black Lives Matter people are pushing, right? Everyone likes to be a hero, and everybody who doesn't like to take self-accountability likes to be a victim, because it takes away their excuse for failure. I wouldn't have been able to make it anyways because the white man is against me. And then you got all of these, all right, just bear with me. You get all these white people coming up, I'll save you. I will speak for you because no one listens to you, black man. I'll stand up for you. White people, number one. And when I'm talking about white people, I'm talking about these virtue signaling, social justice warrior, Captain Save-A-Ho, right? I'm talking about these fools, okay? That's what I mean when I say white people. Stay out of the way. You are not helping. Your welfare is not helping, it's hurting. Your minimum wage is not helping, it's hurting. Your higher taxes is not helping, it's hurting. Affirmative action is hurting everyone, not just black people, but it's hurting everyone. Your gun control is hurting everyone. These are simple things that have been put into place, and it is historically, empirically true. You can look at it, and when the whole disarming the people, it was one of the things that they drove at, saying that in order for a people to completely be free, they have to have the means to defend themselves from both civilians and the state and the federal state. You have to be able to defend yourself, and that was the first thing to go back after the Emancipation Proclamation. And there were laws and laws and laws and laws and amendments and amendments and amendments that were written by Congress to ensure that black people could keep their arms, and there were laws and laws and laws and laws and laws and Supreme Court decisions that helped take those laws out of effect and to take the arms out of the black man's hands in order to defend himself and his family. And it's going on today. So, what do we need to do? We need to fix the actual problem. Do not defund the police. That is changing a tire on a car that won't start. It has no practical use whatsoever. All right? We need to give our policemen the tools they need, and bite the bullet on it. It's going to be expensive, and we're going to have to get rid of other programs that are not helping poor or black people at all. Now, to finish this whole thing off, remember George Floyd. Let's not forget him. All right? He was murdered. And there was a bunch of negligence that got him killed. And there's a lot of people that need to be held accountable. And it's not just the police officers. It's not just the police department. It's the politicians. It's the people who give the funding. And so these people, we need a real look at what these people are doing, how they're what they're doing with their funding. We need to start looking at the books. Hit those books. See where all that money is going. That should be going to the police. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. I hope that what I said was, what I brought to you was edifying and gave you a different perspective other than these progressive wingnuts that aren't helping anybody. Thank you. God bless.